you right here with me. Okay, there it goes. Oh, no, we know. Black Power. What's going on, comrades? Black Power, Robert. And to our other viewers that are on right now, Black Power, Muhammadu.
Black Power. Black Power.
Y'all come on in the room. Black Power, Ghazi.
Black Power.
Black Power, Kimya. Black Power, Karina. Black Power. What's going on, comrades? Come on in the room. Come on in the room. Happy Sunday, fun day to you all. Yay, finally. Girl, don't try it. Black Power, Daniel. Yes, you better watch From the Plantation, Robert. Black Power, Aaliyah. Probably in the kitchen right behind us. Black Power, Wendell. I'm always messing up his name. Black Power, Christopher. Welcome, 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 y'all. Look who's here with me. All right, y'all. We're going to go ahead and get started. And I first want to say welcome and thank you for tuning in to the Revolutionary Book Club with myself, Chief Dia. And I'm so proud to announce that now going forward, every other Sunday, I'll be joined by Comrade Naya.
Black Power.
Black Power. You know, it's just as being a member of Black Hammer, you know, we really want to, well, not that we want to, but we really believe in the leadership of African women. And, you know, we just knew that Naya being on the Revolutionary Book Club would be a great addition. And we get to, you know, get political education from an African woman's point of view. So, Comrade Naya, is there anything you would like to say?
Well, I am happy to be here. This is dope. I'm happy to be here with you. And I'm happy to be joining such a revolutionary part of this organization that brings like political education and just revolutionary science to the people, and to be just helping to get that out there.
Black Power, y'all. So I'm not going to be on here rambling by myself anymore. I got my comrade with me. So, you know, we got some very exciting things coming up for the Revolutionary Book Club. You know, you're going to start seeing us in different locations. We're looking at different Black-owned bookstores to go and do the book club in. So it's really, we about to take it to a whole nother level. So stick with us, okay? So for today's show, as you all know, we are still on the autobiography of Assata, autobiography. So today, we're going to be reviewing chapters 13 through 15. And look how much of the book we have left, y'all. Like, we have really been getting through this thing. Like, and it's just been so, you know, so wonderful to get to know Comrade Assata in this way. And, you know, if I'm being frank, like, I didn't really know too much about, you know, Comrade Assata until now, and it's just been great. What about you, Comrade?
This is my second time reading this book.
Dang.
But I read it 3 years ago.
Okay.
And so the first time I read it, I got a lot out of it, but I wasn't where I am now. So reading it now it's a lot of things that I didn't really understand the first time reading it through. So I've enjoyed this analysis that we've been doing and just reading it through again to just have a basic understanding, especially having some experience being in a, you know, revolutionary party and organization. So I really enjoyed going through this again.
Right on. So, before we start, you know, we got to come through with our announcements. And I just really want to give a salute and a shout out to our comrades Gigi and Robert, who in Orlando did a fantastic food drive yesterday. that was very successful. Shout out to those comrades for doing
salute.
that. Black Power. And I also want to let you guys know that if you're here in Atlanta, Black Hammer will be at the Atlanta Pride this year. So we'll be speaking at the 9th annual LGBT Greek brunch, which is going to be on that Saturday, August 31st at 11 a.m. So we'll be speaking there. And then later on that afternoon at 2 p.m., we'll be having a workshop at the No Hate Campaign event that they're having on that Saturday as well. And that's at 2 o'clock. And then on Saturday, we'll be at the, what is it called? I can't remember what it's called, but it's going to be some performances, like they're doing something in the park, and we'll be there too. I'm actually waiting for one of the main...
Candler Park.
Candler Park? Okay. Yeah, so we'll be there. I'll be singing. Guys will be speaking. You know, comrades will be there. We'll be collecting contacts and stuff like that. So, if you're here in Atlanta and you want to meet the Chiefs, you know, say what's up, get to know more about the organization, you definitely can come out and see us. So, Black Power Daniel, yes. Well, comrade, we'll figure out how to get you here. Don't worry about it. So... All right, y'all. So, hashtag what's on your bookshelf? We want to know right here in the comments. What are you guys reading right now currently? What books are you reading right now? What books do you have on your bookshelf? Obviously, right now we're doing Assata and Autobiography. But yeah, we want to know what you're reading so, we can expand on our book horizons. Black Power, is that Coriel Ahmad. Child, I can butcher some damn names.
Black Power.
All right, so let's get started. In the first chapter, obviously we're going to be doing is chapter 13. And, upon the beginning of the chapter, I think, she's doing her response to the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. And, she's just speaking about her anger, about how this is making not only her, but all of the black people that she sees, how it's making them feel, right? Mm-hmm. Like, because I believe she says that she was on the subway or something like that. And something that she says in the beginning that really was powerful to me, and let me see if I can find it. She says, see, this is what I need to highlight. What did she say?
I know what stood out to me in that little section is when it sounds to me like, she's noticing that many of the leaders that were in the revolution or doing something to fight for black people were murdered, and especially if they were deemed as a threat. She stated the tonic, abstract, revolution. I'm tired of watching us lose. They kill our leaders, then they kill us for protesting. Protest, revolution. If it exists, I want to find it. Bulletins, more bulletins. I'm tired of bulletins. I want bullets.
Right.
That's what stood out to me.
Yeah, okay. So that was powerful. That was really powerful. But also when she says, dang, smashing windows will do me no good. I'm beyond that. I want blood. Like, yes. That's some real ass shit. Like, seriously. So she is talking about that, and she's also talking about how after she graduated from Manhattan Community College, she got married. Did you know that?
I forget that because it just seems so... It almost like it's so significant, like she really didn't talk about it.
Yeah, not at all. And I mean, even just reading this chapter, just when she speaks about it, it's just like that. It's not something that she elaborates on. And then what I also can appreciate about Comrade Assata is that, throughout this whole entire book, up until this point, she speaks about how much of a slob she is, like how disorganized she is. And, also when I was thinking about that, I just realized that she's a Cancer. And I'm a Cancer, and Cancers are messy as hell. No shade. I try to keep it clean, but she just talks about, how she met this African man, and it was, they were caught up in the revolutionary fever, and just how the fact that, you think that when you're a revolutionary and you find another revolutionary, it's automatically going to be some this match made in heaven, but
right, not necessarily.
No. Black Power Valencia, she just talks about how she wasn't able to do much around the house and stuff like that.
Right.
Did you see anything else that was interesting for you in chapter 13?
Yeah. Well, she's getting into organizing and getting very interested in organizing, and then she's defining the word revolution, and she said that I guess people were using the word revolution because it was in and people were talking about it, kind of like now, like everybody's it's hip to be woke, and stuff like that. I purposely try to stay away from that word, but she had mentioned that people were using revolution kind of because it sounded hip, and she had mentioned Malcolm said that she actually defined the word revolution and what it meant for her. She said Malcolm said it meant bloodshed and land. But then she said, to me, revolutionary struggle of black people had to be against racism, capitalism, imperialism, and sexism for real freedom under a socialist government. So that, to me, especially with her being, as young as she was and going into it, seeing what she was seeing and how our leaders were being murdered, and then just, looking at it in the sense that revolution's not just something where it's like you're a bunch of black people running around with guns and stuff like that. It's like, why are we doing this in the first place?
What is it connected to? Like, what end?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, at this point, it's almost like we're watching Assata, we're witnessing Assata, ascending to this, her revolutionary life. She also speaks about how she researches a bunch of different revolutionary groups. Yeah. She was looking for the Red
Guard.
The Red Guard.
Yep.
The Chicanos, is that what
Chicanos,
it is?
Yeah, there were several of them that she mentioned. The Red Guard, I believe it was the Chicanos. She couldn't find the Red Guard for the longest, and then kind of ran into them
by accident.
Yeah.
After,
yeah.
Now, Assata was in the park smoking on some trees with some of her homegirls and homeboys, and it was this guy, two guys that were attacked by the pigs for having these leaflets, on them, and they, they were so high and like in shock that they couldn't really respond in the way that they wanted to.
Absolutely.
And that's how she was, because she was like, they gave her an address to where the Red Guard might be, but even after going to Chinatown, her and her ride that she came with, they actually got lost and they didn't end up finding anyone. Right. And also another great thing about this chapter is when she speaks about being a first aid assistant, where she was going to Alcatraz, which is obviously we know that all of the land here in this country belongs to the indigenous people, but Alcatraz at this point in time, when she was going to help this doctor, there were different demonstrations going on by the the indigenous people of this land, and she was just speaking about how she saw so many different tribes, the strength of these people, that was here at this prison doing these demonstrations. And she also speaks about how the correlations between, Native Americans here in this country and the struggle of African people. So, I thought that was really powerful.
That was, and it just links colonized people all over the globe who have struggled to keep their culture, their culture intact, and then being forced with having to, fight to be able to do that. So I thought that was really powerful as well.
Yeah. And also another good thing is that when she speaks, because we're taught in school that, Native Americans would scout, different tribes, that they were warring with and different things of that nature. But Comrade Assata lays out in the book that scalping, like the actual, the act of scalping started with Europeans. Europeans started doing that, and even they did it, you know, when they were coming to the New World or whatever, and you know the hierarchy would send out orders to, if you bring back this many scalps, then you'll be paid this much. But Assata even says that in the book, that Native Americans didn't start scalping other Native Americans until like 100 years afterwards. And you know, she says that, and I quote, "You'll never find true history in the books."
Nope.
You'll never find the true history in the books. So that was very, very powerful for me.
Yeah, and it just lays out also the fact that so many what people would deem to be savage and you know, things like cannibalism, they try to tie it to African culture and indigenous cultures. Excuse me. And when you actually go out and do research and real history, like she was doing, you'll learn that your, you know, African culture, your indigenous cultures has so many other rich things that, but the things that people tie to it is usually somehow you can link it back to European culture.
Yeah, right. And then they do it in an effort to want to make you want to disassociate yourself with it, you know, just like how we see traditional African religious religion or spirituality.
Absolutely.
You know, how it's been demonized, you know, by white media, you know, they, like you said, like cannibalism and all of this other type of stuff like that. And then we get the idea that we not, you know, what the fuck is that type of shit and all this other kind of stuff like that. They take it and twist it and make it so grotesque that you don't want to have anything to do with it. And it was really nice to see Comrade Assata allude to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to point out?
Yeah, I have a lot of highlights
here.
So we talked about this already, where they got busted and everything like that. Just remaining alert and when you're out and doing the work. Let's see. One of the most important things that the party did was to, and this is coming from page 203, one of the most important things that the party did was to make it really clear who the enemy was, not the white people, but the capitalistic imperialist oppressors. They took the black liberation struggle out of national context and put it in an international context. The party supported revolutionary struggles in governments all over the world and insisted the U.S. get out of Africa, out of Asia, and out of Latin America, and out of the ghetto too. This is, I guess, before she had officially joined the party, but she was just trying to figure out kind of like what they were doing before she actually committed to joining. And I thought that was good that she was like actually researching and not just joining it because it looked good. Because she said she had seen them do a lot of things and she was interested in what they had to say. Yeah. But she was really looking at their ideology, and I like that she did that before she just jumped in
first. Yeah.
So
I like you in another part when she's speaking about the Panthers, and it made me think of Black Hammer, and I was like, that's us. And she was like, when she says the party was more than bad, it was bodacious. The sheer audacity of walking onto the California Senate floor with rifles, demanding that black people have the right to bear arms and the right to self-defense, made me sit back and take a long look at them. And this is when it was really like, this is Black Hammer. And the more political I became, the more I appreciated it. The Panthers didn't try to sound all intellectual, talking about the national bourgeoisie, the military-industrial complex, the reactionary ruling class. They simply called a pig a pig. They didn't refer to the repressive domestic army or the state repressive apparatus. They called the racist police pigs and racist dogs.
Right. I mean,
that's Black Hammer all day. Right. All right, so now we're going to get into our hashtag read that back portions of chapter 13. And for me, my hashtag read that back part for chapter 13 is when, you know, Comrade Assata again is looking for the Red Guard. She's trying to find the Red Guard, and she's with this brother who took her to Chinatown, and they ended up getting lost. So after they got lost, they ended up going to this Chinese restaurant, you know, just to eat and, you know, talk, you know, being that they couldn't find the Red Guard. But So I'm going to read what she says. Finding the Red Guard was not easy at all. Half the people I ran into had never heard of them, and the other half only had a minimal knowledge of who they were and what they were all about. Oh, hold on, wait, no, that's not where it starts at. Okay. So we ended up getting lost. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's page 200. I'm on page 200. So she says, we ended up getting lost and never did find the address. Instead, we ended up eating at a Chinese restaurant and getting into a big debate. He couldn't understand why a black woman wanted to hook up with Chinese revolutionaries in the first place. Ain't nobody gonna free black folks but black folks. Those Chinese don't give a damn about you and me. All they care about is their own people and what's going on in China. I told him that I thought there were a whole lot of us in the same predicament and that the only way we were going to get out of it was to come together and to break the chains. The brother looked at me as if I was spouting empty rhetoric. Some of the laws of revolution are so simple they seem impossible. People think that in order for something to work, it has to be complicated, but a lot of times the opposite is true. We usually reach success by putting the simple truths that we know into practice. The basis of any struggle is people coming together to fight against a common enemy. And, that was very powerful for me, just in regards that, we understand that, first of all, revolution is a process. And, like Comrade Assata says that, we're the colonized people of the world, African people, indigenous people, all of these different countries that have been dominated by white power, who have been, just brutalized and has experienced this, genocide at the hands of white imperialism. Right. That's the answer, to overturning this thing, for us to unite. And we understand that, each proletariat may have its own nuances and different things of that nature, in terms of like where they're located, the history of imperialism in that country, and what may have taken place. But we understand that for everybody to be free, for all of us to be free of colonialism, of imperialism, we have to unite together. And uniting could mean solidarity and supporting the indigenous people of this land, supporting the indigenous people of Palestine, Iraq, Iran, all of those different places where we see imperialism just being rampant. It would be backwards to think that, just because we're African people, that we wouldn't be able to, work with the indigenous people of the Americas, or, things like that. So that was very powerful for me. So that was my hashtag, read that back part for chapter 13.
Well, I had, several. I have this one that's to me, is very powerful. And just like, I guess, self-accountability, to get involved with the struggle, because I know a lot of people, they feel like, well, what can I do, or why should I get involved, or what is it that we haven't already tried. But she says on page 207 towards the end of the chapter, if you're deaf, dumb, and blind to what's happening in the world, you're under no obligation to do anything. But if you know what's happening and you don't do anything but sit on your ass, then you are nothing but a punk. I like to prefer, I don't know if I should say it,
girl, bitch.
Okay.
You a bitch
ass nigga, something. But that's, I mean, it's, and then tying back to the beginning of the chapter where she had mentioned that, what happened to Martin Luther King and then several other revolutionary leaders. There was that one case that we've all seen, or that was highly publicized, that pushed us into getting involved. And I think for me, it was a combination. I think it was, Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, it was, Mike Brown, all of those. And how could I forget and I'm drawing a blank, but the little boy that was shot in Cleveland, Ohio by the pigs, he was playing on the playground. Park? Yeah. Okay. His name starts with a T.
Tamir
Rice.
Yeah.
And, that was it for me, because I'm just like, I can't just sit here and do nothing while this shit is happening to my people, and then it's just, you know. And so that rang true to me, because I think that something within you has to know that it's just the moral, if you have a moral compass at all, that you can't just sit by idly while this planet is being destroyed and people are being kept from just natural resources that every life form was supposed to be able to utilize. And then, but there's a group of people that are trying to keep it from everybody unless they get what they want. And you know, I'm done with sitting around doing that shit. So that rang true to me.
Yeah. Black power, black power. So let's get into these comments to see what your hashtag read that back part was for chapter 13. But before I do that, and I should have did it in the beginning, I'm sorry, it slipped my mind. But the Revolutionary Book Club does serve as a fundraiser for Black Hammer and also a member drive for Black Hammer as well. So if you look here in the comments, I have pinned the links that you can go and donate. You have the Cash App and the GoFundMe. The Cash App being BH Book Club. You can donate anything that you can. You can also go to GoFundMe.com/BlackHammer.org, and it's to, you know, support the organization so we can do different things, like do different campaigns, like you see with the hashtag Protect Our Girls campaign. The food drive that was done in Orlando on yesterday that was extremely successful. All of those things were able to happen because of your support and the donations that you give to Black Hammer. So we really want to appreciate everybody who has donated thus far. And again, please just donate whatever you can, you know, whatever you can. So again, you can go to Black Hammer. You can even donate at blackhammer.org. But again, you can go to GoFundMe.com/BlackHammer.org, and you can also donate through Cash App at BH Book Club. So, as you can see, I got my co-host now. You don't know, one day we trying to get into a studio or something like that. So, so moving on to chapter 14, excuse me. So, now,
we want to look at some of the comments.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Hashtag read that back. So we have Comrade Daniel who says, hashtag read that back. How she broke down how simple the Black Panthers' take on the pigs were. Yes.
Absolutely.
Let's see. We also have hashtag read that back from Comrade Christopher who says, you'll be good for the party and the party will be good for you. The party is only as strong as its people.
Yup.
That's true. That is so true. Let's see if we have any others. We have Comrade Kim, your hashtag read that back. Let's see.
197, she said,
I'm sorry. There you go.
Second to last paragraph. Back then, everyone used the word revolution just because it sounded hip. To me, the revolutionary struggle of Black people had to be against racism, capitalism, imperialism, and sexism. That was powerful for me too. Real freedom under a socialist government.
Yes.
Absolutely, Kim. Black power.
Let's see. Okay. All right. Black Power, Gerald. So, So moving on to chapter 14. So now, she's back speaking about her trials and everything like that. So she starts off by letting us know that she's now being moved to Manhattan Correctional Center, and it's now January 5th, 1976, and she's being moved there because of alleged bank robbery in Queens, New York.
Right.
So she speaks about, you know, the correctional center, you know, just like the environment and what it's like. And she also speaks about, you know, people in the prison who have done sophisticated crimes or whatever, and how, you know, they get these special privileges because they pay the guards, and, you know, like getting Chinese food, getting Italian food, and all of this other type of stuff like that. Just because even in prison, if you have access to resources, you can make it do what it do, you know? So, you know, she speaks about that. And she also speaks about, you know, the health of the women in the prison and how, you know, they don't have access to adequate health or, you know, health care and things like that.
That was a little disgusting. And just, it says, I know on page 210 it says at the time the health situation was horrible. Women came in off the street and were given no physical exam, no test, no nothing. They had trouble seeing gynecologists and having their most basic needs met, medical or otherwise. Since we were a tiny minority of the prison population, our needs were ignored. The women got together and wrote complaints to the warden. Charlie was one of the women who worked the hardest to get better medical conditions. It's kind of ironic when I think about it now. A little more than a year later, I overheard through the prison grapevine that Charlene had died from undiagnosed cancer of the uterus. I mean, and that's common, like today. I actually had an uncle that died in prison, and he had been sick for a while, and they ignored the situation. But I mean, these types of things, I mean, they're disgusting because, I mean, like, you know, anything that you could need, you know, you're supposed to have, you know, annual breast exams. I mean, just basic care. Yeah. And they ignore it because they're like, oh, well, you're an inmate, so, you know, you lucky to get food or whatever. I mean, it's disgusting.
And you know what? I just want to backtrack real quick, you know, just to speak into, you know, like how she's speaking about, you know, how these sophisticated criminals, you know, get all of these different privileges from paying the prison guards and stuff like that. So, quick story. Last night, I was out doing Lyft. So, we rode by the federal prison that's here in Atlanta. And I had no idea, yeah, I didn't have any idea that it was a federal prison here. And when you ride by it, it looks like a larger version of the White House, like the actual White House that the presidents are in of this country. It looks like a big ass White House. So it's this sister in the back seat, you know, that I'm driving, and she was like, oh yeah, we call that the big house. You know, that's the big house. And she was like, some of the inmates are actually, they get to leave at night. Like the guards let them out of the prison at night, and they get back in the morning before they do the count or whatever. And, you know, at first I had a mixed reaction to that because it was like, well, shit, they getting over on, you know, the prison or whatever. But then when I was able to read this, it was just like, it creates a situation to where, you know, the brothers get almost comfortable in being in this environment because, you know, well, shit, why do I have to try to fight the system if I can get these types of privileges? If all I gotta do is pay this guard or something like that, and it you know, it takes the fight away of making you want to say, well, we gotta burn this prison down, bitch. Fuck all of that shit. I don't want to get out for just a couple of hours or whatever and then have to come back. I want to burn this shit the fuck down. And, you know, that's what makes it problematic because, again, if you have, it makes you comfortable and you get comfortable. And that was just like really, it was really unnerving to me to hear that. So it was, yeah, that was crazy.
Wow.
But, so she's right now in the Manhattan Correctional Center, and this case is being taken on by the federal what is it, the federal court system or something like that?
It said the federal prison. It said they made some comment where they said that she was the property
of the state or something like that.
Federal something, yeah.
Yeah, you're the property of the feds now.
Right.
So, mind you, y'all, she hasn't had her court date yet for the supposed murder of the pig on the turnpike. These are all of the trumped up charges that the FBI, yes, the U.S. government has, you know, put against her. So this is just another trial that she's going through. So she talks about that. In a previous chapter, I think that we reviewed like last week, she speaks about how they used a photo of this woman that was robbing the bank, and how they put her colonial name under the picture, you know, saying that it's a warrant for her and things of that nature. And then at a previous court date, they wanted to photograph her just so they'll be able to line up the pictures to make it seem like it was actually Assata. But she didn't want to take the pictures, so the pigs jumped her in the courtroom. Literally in the courtroom. So now at this is the bank that was in Queens, New York. So this is what she's on trial now. So at this trial, what the pigs did was try to put her photo on top of the photo of the woman to make it look like her.
Yeah.
But they were beating her so bad, like the picture that they took, they cropped her face out, then blocked out all of the pigs that were beating her, and the picture that they was able to get, she says that she was in such anguish that it was no way in hell that they could say that that was her.
Right. I was just disgusted because I mean it's not surprising that those are the types of antics that they will use to try to lock somebody away, especially somebody who's considered a revolutionary. But yeah, just the fact that they beat her in open court. I mean that was enough, like in front of everybody for people to see, and then they were going to try to use what little they could get to say, oh, we're going to use this scientific forensic, we're going to line it up and show you that this is most likely who was robbing the bank.
I mean, it's comical because of the way Comrade Assata lays it out, but then it's very serious because you would think that, the state wouldn't do these simple-minded dumbass, like it's almost like petty ass shit, like really petty to try to convict Comrade Assata. But this is what the state has done. This is what the state is doing to African people who are fighting for our liberation each and every single day. And she speaks about how they had some type of they brought this guy, the prosecution brought in some scientific evidence to say that it was her in the pictures, but she says since the photo identification part of the case was based on more than nothing than all niggas look alike, the FBI tried to use scientific evidence to gain a conviction. Their plan to superimpose the bank surveillance photo over my photo failed because they had only one photo of me that was taken at the same angle as the bank robbery picture. It was one of the photographs taken when they assaulted me in the courtroom before the trial began, when I refused to let them take my picture. The FBI had blocked out the faces and hands of the marshals and FBI agents choking and assaulting me. They had cropped the picture so that the only thing the jury could see was my face. But my facial expression in the photograph was one of such agony that it was hard for them to convince the jury of anything else.
Yeah, that was that term that I was trying to think of when you mentioned that's like supposed to be like a forensic type method that they use when they're trying to, especially when they're trying to they find a skull and they're trying to, well, this has to be that person. But they try to use that shit to convict her for this. Anything to get their case made. Anything to,
And also, it was so at this point in the chapter, she doesn't think that she's going to, win this case or whatever, win this trial or whatever. But they have her defense team was able to they said the court allowed them to bring in their own photographic forensic person or whatever you want to call it. And he was able to lay out that in fact that it was not her in the photo, and she was able to get her acquittal in this trial. So yeah, it was a very cool, I mean, just understanding the situation that Comrade Assata is in. To me, reading this chapter, it was kind of, this chapter, it was kind of, I don't want to say that it made me happy, but it was exciting to see her, beat this, in this chapter or whatever. And also, she worked with a Jewish lawyer for this trial that she didn't use. She still had Aunt Eb acting on her counsel, but the main defense was led by this Jewish man or whatever. So, yeah. You got anything else before we go into the hashtag read that back?
No, we can go ahead and go into that. You covered.
Okay. So you can go ahead and start with yours.
Well,
and then we'll go to mine.
I had mentioned mine to yours earlier, but mine's the one where during the court hearing, it says this is coming from page 212, one little girl broke up the whole courtroom when she asked out loud, "Is that the Foss's pig, Mama?" pointing at the judge. And it was as if black folks had just taken over the courtroom, letting everybody know that they were just watching what was going down.
Yes.
And so I like that because I'm teaching my child right now. He's 5, and 5-year-olds mostly say whatever the hell is on their mind. And when it's apparent that they are already getting the lowdown on what the system is doing, my son knows not to trust no pigs. He's not gonna trust no pigs. But it's just more so like you got to start early, letting your kids know seriously about what the system has in store for them. And so that stood out to me because whoever's kid that was, Mama was already giving them the business.
Period.
Yeah.
So my hashtag, my hashtag read that back part comes on page 210. And again, in this chapter, she's speaking about how she's moved to the Manhattan correctional center, and she speaks about running into 2 sisters that she had met previously in another prison before she got here, and it's this sister by the name of Charlene. But she, they call her Charlie, and you was actually speaking about her earlier. But so it says, hashtag read that back. She was bitter and tired, and her whole attitude can be summed up in 2 words she frequently used: shove it. She told me that her freedom depended on whether or not she passed a high school equivalency test. Yeah. Everybody encouraged her to study, but she just didn't seem to care anymore. She said that she was tired of jumping through hoops and didn't give a damn what happened. I understood how she felt, but I hated to see her so bitter and so hurt and nowhere to go with it, nothing positive to apply it to. I wanted to help her, but I didn't know how, and I was only going to be there for a hot minute. The only thing that perked her up was the struggle that women got into to improve medical care at the jail. And that part for me was very powerful because, as colonized Africans here in America, and colonized people all over the world, we're taught. Well, not necessarily even taught. It's imposed upon us by, white colonial school systems, and, just anything any type of propaganda that you see is just based in this thing that if you get an education, if you go to school, if you do all of these different things, you'll be able to, follow your dreams and live the life that you want to. But the pain, the frustration that Charlie is displaying here in this portion of the chapter is something that we've all, experienced as colonized people. Absolutely. And just to say, I went to a 4-year college, graduated with a degree, and I wasn't even able to use that degree until I joined a revolutionary organization. Yeah. And, you graduate, you get this degree, they want you to have so many years of experience before you get an actual job versus some white cracker boy or girl who just knows somebody in the corporation whose dad is like a boss or something like that. They're guaranteed a position. And it's just like...
Yeah. I'm recalling when I used to work for, I'm do certain type of work for children, used to, and then... There was an organization that I worked for where this white woman, she was my supervisor, and not even that, but it was just the requirements were that, at least for the supervisory position, you were to have a you had to have a college degree to even get like a job just as a caseworker. She didn't even have a high school diploma. And we found that out like through the grapevine, and it was likely to be true. Matter of fact, a client actually told me because he was raised, he knew her. So he was like, last time I heard, like, she never even graduated high school, but this is a white woman. Yeah. So it was just like, you can, there are exceptions made for white people or colonizers all over the place, but then you got Africans and colonized people, they can have all the accreditations in the world, and they still scrapping to survive.
Yeah.
And
it's just like, I can say if there is a such, well, I'll just say how fortunate it was for me to be able to go to get this knowledge, and then be able to bring it back, right, to forward the revolution. And it's not to say, if you do have a degree, if you do have, some type of skill, that it should be put back into the struggle for liberation for your people. Because, you can have all the doctorates, you can have all the degrees in the world, but that's not going to stop you from getting shot down in the street if you're pulled over by some pig. It's not going to stop you from, having to worry about the safety of your children each and every single time that they go, that they leave out of the house to go do something. Absolutely. And, that's something that we, that we have to consciously fight against, because, again, capitalism, white imperialism will feed you this idea that if you just do all of these different things, like the sister said, jump through all of these different hoops, that you'll be okay. But there's no comfortable place in colonialism. There's no comfortable place in capitalism. And just if you do decide to, if I knew then what I know now, I would not have gone to school. And you talking about debt, like $40,000 up in debt.
Tell me about it.
That a degree that I don't even have with me, and I couldn't even get the damn degree because I owed the school a balance. They wouldn't give me they gave me, and that's the shade, girl. This is a shade. So they gave me the casing for the degree, but they said in order for me to get my actual paper degree, I had to pay off the balance that I owed to the school.
See.
So yeah, it's just important that even now that we instill in our children that this whole this idea of the American dream is bullshit. It's bullshit.
It sure don't apply to them.
So hashtag read that back. Let's get into these comments to see what you guys' favorite part of chapter 14 was. We have Comrade Valencia who says that's common in the workplace for white people to hold on, let's see. It's common in the workplace for white people to have no high school diploma or at best a GED, but are put in supervisory positions over black people who are more educated than them.
Yup.
The shade of it all. The oppression of it all. Let's see what else we have here. We have Comrade Daniel who says, I learned more from wandering the streets and reading Fanon and Huey after I dropped out of college. Period. Mm-hmm. We got Conrad Kimmy who says a white man out of prison finds a job more quickly than a black man with a degree. That's true. Let's see. Oh, are we respond? I see we got some response to a comment. Okay, so we have Comrade Histofer who says hashtag read. Come on, stupid thing. What did I just do? Hold on, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, we have Comrade Histofer who says, hashtag read that back. Black people trying to avoid jury duty instead of slowing down the railroad. Oh, that was another important part of the chapter as well, too, on page 223. Mm-hmm. She said, he said, it made me think of the cases I sat on in the power of money. Yes.
Yep.
We have Skuzat with the Cutters. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but he says the prison industrial complex is the mental isolation of the society.
That's him again.
And he says, I am one that always believed that it's not the prison industrial complex that keeps us down, nor is it the Jim Crow. I'm not even going into all of that. So anyway, yeah.
Somebody might need to be
pay the trolls, y'all. Pay the trolls. But okay, so yeah, that's what did you okay, yeah, you did do your hashtag read that back part for chapter 14. Okay. So yeah, we can move on to chapter 15. Dang, I feel like it was something else I wanted to comment on, but I can't think right now. But okay, so yeah, if we don't have any more hashtag read that back comments here, we're gonna go to chapter 15, which was woo. But again, first I just want to remind all of our viewers that the Revolutionary Book Club is a fundraiser and a member drive for the Black Hammer organization. So again, we invite you to donate to support the Revolutionary Book Club, support Black Hammer. You can donate through Cash App at BH Book Club. You can also go through GoFundMe at gofundme.com/blackhammer.org, or you can go to blackhammer.org to donate through that as well, and become a member at $5 a month. Just $5 a month, and support the revolution, support your freedom, support your children's freedom. Absolutely. So, all right. So moving on to chapter 15. This is when Comrade Assata decides that she's going to join the Black Panther Party. Mm-hmm. So she speaks about just her initial visit there. How she gets there. I just want to put a disclaimer out there real quick. Comrade Assata really reads the hell out of the Black Panther Party in this chapter. She does. And it definitely doesn't take away from anything that that even what the Black Panther Party represents right now. But just the principled and the principled criticism that Comrade Assata lays out in this chapter of the of the Black Panther Party is really astounding, and it was just like, damn. So,
she went in really already criticizing them.
Yeah. So she's joining right now at this point where they have the Panther 21 that's on trial right now, and each of them that are on trial have a $100,000 bail on their heads right now. So she's speaking about that, and when she enters the party, she comes into the vision of the medical cadre. So she's working with the sister that is, doing the free TB testing. They're giving out information about sickle cell anemia and things like that as well. Even early on in the chapter, I don't even think... Okay, so she joined one day, then the next day, she got expelled.
Yeah.
The very next day, she got expelled. And she was expelled because she had newspapers. The Panthers had a newspaper or whatever, and so she left the stack of them on a desk or something like that. So it was this comrade by the name of what was his name? Robert B.
Yeah. Okay.
So she sat her papers down on a desk or something, and he threw them away. So she snapped.
Yeah.
She straight snapped. And so, this brother didn't even have the balls to tell her that he expelled her. So she goes to the office the next day, and the person who's at the front was like, yeah, girl, you expelled. You're not even supposed to be here. So anyway, they got that situated. She was reinstated back into the party or whatever. And then she speaks about the breakfast program that she was a part of, and how she had to be there every day at 4:30. And I believe she said the first day she was assigned, she overslept.
Yeah.
So she gave a self-criticism in a meeting or whatever, and then she was directed to be on the the free breakfast for the rest of her time as a member of the party.
Excuse me, yep.
So so she speaks about that, and one of the main criticisms that Comrade Assata has had of the party was the political education of the Black Panther Party. And that's something that's something very, very extremely important. And just even us having this discussion now, having the Revolutionary Book Club, having this political education, she just speaks about if people aren't informed about what they're fighting against or even how to fight it, then you are ill-equipping the people. Mm-hmm. And she lays out, how most of the political education wasn't, they didn't have any historical context to, anything that was being taught. She speaks about how it was an African from the continent who brought in a calendar to the office. And on the calendar, it said, what did she say? It says...
it didn't say intercommunalist. It said internationalist.
So she said it was a badass calendar. The calendar was beautiful. So she hung it up, but when she came into the office the next morning, it was gone, and she asked the guy, the brother who was there, where's the calendar? And he was like, the calendar said international. We're not internationalists, we're intercommunalists. Mm-hmm. And that was just evidence of the lack of understanding. Mm-hmm. In the serious, I almost want to say even not necessarily the seriousness, because obviously they had to take political education seriously, but just the political strength of what was being taught wasn't there. It wasn't like a foundation. So
let me see, it was something else that she said there when she was discussing the political education. It says, I thought it was a real shame the Black Panther Party didn't teach Panthers organizing and mobilizing techniques. Mm-hmm. Some members were natural geniuses at organizing people, but they were usually the busiest comrades with the most responsibility. Yeah. And how many times do we find that in an organization, one that has great intentions to do all this stuff, but you need people that can be trained to know what they're doing in the community. And she witnessed that, where it was just like, you got all these people here who they know what they're doing, they go out in the streets, they get shit done, but then they can't really take on much more. And then you got the new comrades that may come in that they don't know what the hell they're doing, right, but they haven't received the training or the guidance on how to go out and learn to take on that same load. Mm-hmm. And everything, and I thought that was pretty deep. Yeah. And that was a good criticism to bring about. Mm-hmm.
Because without political education, you can have the will and the firepower to go out and want to, mm-hmm, destroy white imperialism, but that's like having the gun and not knowing what to do with it or how to use it.
Absolutely.
Because any of us can go out and shoot a pig or do anything anything of that nature, but to what end? Like, what is that leading us to? Right. So she speaks about that, and she also speaks about this friend that she made, this comrade by the name of Zaid.
Is it Zaid? I'm not sure how to say it either.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So she speaks about her relationship with him, and she also goes into her into her criticism of Huey P. Newton. Mm-hmm. And just how she wasn't a big fan of his speeches, or like how he spoke. And she even says, what did she say? The problem was that somebody had forgotten to tell these oppressed. No, I'm sorry. Even worse, almost no one understood Huey's long speeches explaining intercommunalism. Huey Newton was not what you call a good speaker. In fact, he had a kind of high-pitched, monotonous voice, and his rambling for 3 hours about the negation of the negation was sheer disaster. People walked out in droves. Instead of criticizing what was happening, most of the party members defended it. When I said that Huey needed speaking lessons, they jumped down my throat. When Huey changed his title from defense minister to the ridiculous sounding supreme commander, and then to the even more ridiculous supreme servant, damn near nobody said a word. That was one of the big problems in the party. Now this is where she really get into it. Criticism and self-criticism were not encouraged, and the little that was given often was not taken seriously. Constructive criticism and self-criticism are extremely important for any revolutionary organization. Without them, people tend to drown in their mistakes, not learn from them. That was extremely important.
So important.
Yeah.
I highlighted that because it's, it doesn't ever feel good to have to give a self-criticism, but they are so necessary because in the fact that she saw that, it's just the significance of how she recognized it even then, being fairly new to the party at that point, knowing that self-criticism and criticism are how important they are, and how they can forward a revolution, or how they can kill one, really, or a revolutionary organization anyway, because if you can't come forward and say, these are the things that I know that we're doing wrong, or this is how we're not reaching the people, or did you see how we need to have a discussion about the last speech that Huey had. Why were all those people leaving at the time that they were leaving? I mean, especially if they felt like there was something substantive in what he was saying that needed to be heard. So a criticism would have needed to be given in order for them to say, okay, now that we have the criticism, what can we do to change that? Should we have somebody else that can speak? Yeah. Some people just ain't good speakers.
That's true. And that's not to even take away from anything that Huey P. Newton did. If anything, criticism and self-criticism how it should be used. It should be used in a way to uplift the leadership, to improve, not even just the leadership, but your other comrade or any of your comrades, so they in turn become better comrades.
Absolutely.
So a big part of this chapter, I feel like, is when she's speaking about her relationship with Comrade Zaid. And a lot of these criticisms that she had of the Black Panther Party, she laid out to him. She even speaks about him coming over to her house for them to have this discussion, where she just basically voiced, all of these things to him. And, she says that she was upset because once she laid out how she was feeling, like Zaid just closed up on her, like almost she couldn't understand if he was upset with her, or of anything. And so later on we find out that Zaid was in a position to where he couldn't really act upon what she said. Conrad Ghazi says, I remember a certain old leader that would put people in sleep. Put people to sleep. Look at speeches. So anyway, she's speaking about that. But anyway, at this point, Huey P. Newton has expelled the Panther 21 from the party because they sent a letter saying, criticizing him, and he wanted them out of the party. And so Zaid at this point was trying to play like peacemaker between Huey P. Newton and the Panther 21. And it's a part in the chapter where she speaks about how Zaid snaps on this comrade because they felt like he was being subjective because of the next person that they were going to use the money that they raised to get them out of prison when one of his brothers, Zaid's brother, blood brother was one of the Panthers 21. Mm-hmm. But here it is, he was struggling for this other comrade to get out because he knew how influential, how powerful this brother was versus his real brother. Mm-hmm. And that's like some real revolutionary ass shit right there.
He had mentioned when he was discussing that, he said that this brother had specific skills mm-hmm. that were in dire need mm-hmm. to the organization. Mm-hmm. So that's why they were fighting to get that brother out and not his own blood brother. Yeah. So that, to me, I was like, that would be subjective if he was trying to get his own brother mm-hmm. out rather than this brother that they needed because they needed his skills. Yeah,
that was extremely objective. Talking about mm-hmm. subjective, that was extremely mm-hmm. objective. So I'm gonna read what Comrade Assata says, because at this point, again, she doesn't understand why Zaid is acting this way, or even though she was criticizing Huey P. Newton for doing all of these unnecessary expulsions and stuff like that. She didn't understand exactly what was happening until, towards the end of this chapter. She says, I'm going to read it. She says, Zaid was acting as a peacemaker between Huey and the Panther 21, furiously, I'm on page 231. Furiously trying to get Huey to rescind his expulsion order. Zaid felt that to take any position in reference to problems within the party might jeopardize his role and result in dire consequences for the Panther 21. Situeo and Doruba, who had not been expelled because they were out on bail and had not signed the letter, were also attempting to get the Panther 21 reinstated. They were under a lot of pressure from both sides. Huey wanted them to support the expulsion, and the expelled Panthers wanted them to criticize Huey's action. Like Zaid, Set and Doruba honestly believed they could straighten out the madness, and were it not for the FBI, they probably could have. Nobody back then had ever heard of the counterintelligence program set up by the FBI. Nobody could have possibly known that the FBI had sent a phony letter to Eldridge Cleaver in Algiers signed by the Panther 21 criticizing Huey Newton's leadership. No one could have known that the FBI had sent a letter to Huey's brother saying that the New York Panthers were plotting to kill him. Nobody could have known that the FBI's COINTELPRO was attempting to destroy the Black Panther Party in particular, and the Black Liberation Movement in general, using divide and conquer tactics. The FBI's COINTEL program consisted of turning members of organizations against each other, pitting one black organization against another. Huey ended up suspending Set and Doruba from the party, branded them as enemies of the people, and caused them to go into hiding in fear of their very lives. No one had the slightest idea that this whole scenario was carefully manipulated and orchestrated by the FBI.
Heavy.
That was some very heavy shit right there. And just upon reading that, it just makes you think of how further the Panthers could be, like right now in 2019. Like what could we have achieved, up until this point, without the intervention of the FBI, the COINTEL program.
Yeah, and it just, like all of that she laid out right there, that is, if these types of things weren't written, and for us to kind of understand, like, what's been done in the past to destroy, like, revolutionary groups such as the Black Panther Party, even with the things that they might have been doing wrong on their own, but the things that, took place, it's so important that we're reading this, because that's how like, okay, these are the tactics that have been used before, so this is how we can protect ourselves now, when we have the revolutionary groups we have today. I mean, it's really, really heavy. And just thinking about, the Panthers that lost their lives or who are still rotting away in prison, it's just really heavy to read that to see how this all unfolded. People say COINTELPRO and they just think, oh yeah, it was, but it was so, because it'd be the people. Like, I mean, somewhere in here she talks about somebody who was in the Panther Party who they learned was an FBI undercover. Yeah, Cotton.
Yeah. Who was this? He was working for the police undercover, and he was working on this project to build up our, what was it?
Was it the medical?
No, well, yeah, it was the building that the Panther Party had purchased to put the free medical clinic in and stuff like that. And she was just speaking about how he was always drunk. You know, every time, you know, people were just, members of the party were just telling her, yeah, girl, he doing the work, he doing what he's supposed to do. And every time she would go over there, nothing will be done. And then it later comes out after she goes to the office and she's told by the brother that's working there that he doesn't feel good or whatever. So she schedules him a doctor's appointment that he ultimately doesn't go to, and so now Cotton is fighting to get Assata expelled because he's saying that when the brother told Assata about, you know, how he was feeling, that she didn't do nothing, you know, which they later find out that it was a lie and that this bitch ass nigga was an operative of the state.
Absolutely, because I mean, not only that, he had everybody mad at her because they were saying, oh, well, you know, we were told that you didn't do anything for this brother when he came to you, say he wasn't feeling well. It's so important to pay attention to those types of things because people, I mean, they will look just like you.
Sound just like you.
Goddamn pig.
Yes.
And something does not feel right. It's important to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
So.
I'm almost sorry because the part about the COINTEL program, that was my hashtag read that back part. But do you have a hashtag read that back?
I think we kind of covered mine already too, because we talked about what did I highlight? I mean, I highlighted pretty much all of her criticisms because I thought they were important to kind of recognize for today. And then we talked about the political education and how she reviewed. You read it already, so that was my hashtag.
Black Power. Okay, so let's see what comrades are speaking about in the comments. We have Comrade Christopher, hashtag read that back. FBI COINTEL program consists of turning members of organizations against each other, pitting one black organization against the other. Yes, Black Power. Let's see. We also have Comrade Daniel who says hashtag read that back about COINTELPRO. Wow. Yeah. Then we have Comrade Kimya who says, my finger's so clumsy, y'all. I'm sorry. Okay. You want to read that one?
Kimya says, that's my read that back. The COINTELPRO interface in Black Panther Party, it is knowledge that is truly useful today, especially in the Black Identity Extremist designation. Absolutely.
And I like what you said earlier about, you know, just understanding what the COINTEL program is, because, you know, being a member of Black Hammer, you know, or any, you know, revolutionary organization, it helps you to be vigilant, you know, and security conscious about anything that comes across your desk, because like, we understand how petty and conniving the state can be. You know, to look at this, that's like high school ass shit. But it's so, you don't understand the gravity or, you know, the power that something that we would conceive to be so petty of what it can actually do to, you know, an organization. And, you know, just to have that understanding and to, you know, just know the nature of the state, you know, it's crazy. Yeah,
and the tactics they'll use, I mean, one example would be that somebody might say, it might be a concept that the person has. Some people honestly just don't know any better when they come into the revolutionary walk where they think, oh yeah, well this is okay. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. But like ADOS, for example, might be something somebody will come in and think that that's something that we would support or that would be something that would be harmless. But then when you also look at, there are people that come into groups and their idea from the very start is to use something like that to as a poison to spit out to the other people of the organization, where they just, why would they say that this isn't something that we should do? I mean, and then before you know it, you got this rift between that's just an example, a good example I could think of, but it's important to pay attention to that and to call things like that out and why they're problematic, and gain an understanding of unity around certain concepts. Not that you're trying to necessarily force somebody how to think, but it's important to understand that these things, how dangerous some certain types of narratives and rhetoric can be to a revolutionary group, and they use those tactics because they know some people just don't know.
Yeah. So
I think that's really important to keep an eye, to be vigilant on things like that.
Black Power. Alrighty, y'all. So we've come to the end of today's show. And I'm so happy to have my comrade Naya with me going forward. I hope you guys have enjoyed her as well too. So we have 6 chapters left.
Wow, 2 more weeks.
Only 2 more weeks, y'all. And this has been such a great, I guess you can say journey.
Yes.
Or whatever. Being able to have, these discussions to, get to know Comrade Assata in this way, and to, be able to have political education for the people. It's just really, really, really great. So again, just really want to remind you all, support the book club, support Black Hammer, Cash App, BH Book Club, GoFundMe.com/BlackHammerOrg. Go to blackhammer.org to donate there. And just to let you all know, if you didn't, Comrade Naya is the chief of membership. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
With that being said, I am going to extend an invitation for people to join Black Hammer today. You can comment that you want to learn more, or that you want to just talk to us about how you can join. But I need people who want to join to put up a fist right now. Black Power fist right now in the comments, and I will be in contact with you. Or even if you just want to learn more about, the organization, and we can extend that to, we can let you know how to do that as well. But if you are interested in learning more or becoming a member of Black Hammer, please put a fist in the comments.
Oh, we got one. Black Power Kai.
All right, cool. So I will be in contact with you. And even if you watch the playback, just know that if you put a fist in the comments, I'm going to be in contact with you. So that you can join. We have so many different committees that you can be a part of. You can be a part of this committee. You can be a part. We do a lot of ill shit. So you can really just really be a part of the revolution and whatever it is that you can contribute. So put a fist in the comments. Let us know that you are interested. We will be in contact with you because we gotta grow.
Yes. So earlier, before we went live, I was having a conversation with Comrade Naya, and this came to me while I was brushing my teeth this morning. So, in Black Hammer, we ain't with that bourgeoisie type shit. Petty bourgeoisie, nothing like that. We are stone cold, working class, African people fighting to get free.
Yep.
So, we call it the Revolutionary Book Club. But I was thinking calling it the Revolutionary Book Trap. Like how you got Trap House? So the Revolutionary Book Trap. We in the Revolutionary Book Trap.
I like it. I
unite. We can talk about it. If you like that name, let me see you put a black fist in the comment section. If you like the Revolutionary Book Trap. We didn't know book club. When you think of book club, you think of some high sedity, white people sitting around in a circle, monotone voice, just speaking, answering questions about
unseasoned,
everything.
everything all in.
Just bland. Mm-hmm. But we gonna discuss it with the book club committee, and then we'll bring it back. But the Revolutionary Book Trap, I like that.
I'm with it.
I'm with it too. But y'all come back next Sunday, 11 a.m. We're gonna be doing chapters 16 through 18. We're getting close. We're getting close to the end, y'all. We're getting to the end. Mm-hmm. So we're probably what's today's date? The 28th. Yeah. This Sunday we'll be announcing the next book that we'll be reading for the Revolutionary Book Club. So make sure you tune in for that. We have comrades Gigi and Robert that will provide you with the free PDF to the books that we're reading. So make sure you tune in, find out how you can get the book, and Black Power, y'all.
Black Power.